finally, today, we close out with E, our last one, which is called a price ceiling. And this is something that you may not know too much about, but it is the opposite of a floor, as you might guess. You guys that are sport people, think about things like salary caps for sports leagues, where the Pacers or any NBA team or any NFL team cannot pay over a certain amount in salaries. Ask yourself, what's the point of that? Why do you want to do that? Which may be a question as well. I'm writing this down. But there's a point to them, which it shouldn't be that difficult if you think about it. But so I've got notes for you here, and I just kind of redrew the last one. This is part E. Price ceiling is a price or wage, although normally it's a salary, I suppose, that one business cannot go over. So you cannot charge above this, and design things to make things here more affordable. So what I'm going to talk about, an example, are apartments in a big city. Normally you've got a desire to live in certain parts of the city. If you think about New York, you want to live in Manhattan. If you LA, you want to live close to the water and things like that. So what ends up happening is the prices go up. Well, that prices a lot of people out of the market. So you've got to draw yourself this curve or this line. Okay, same thing. We'll just make it simple. 1,000 apartments you've got here. Okay, and at 1,000 apartments, you've got an equilibrium, or you've got $2,000 a month, which is pretty low, honestly, for a big city. But just for the example's sake, so everybody who wants an apartment in downtown will pay $2,000. Well, the problem is a lot of people can't afford $2,000, especially people that live in those, or not live but work in those downtown areas. You think about people that, those of you who've been to a big city, Starbucks and little grocery stores and delis and gas stations and stuff, they're not making much money. So government says, well, that's not fair. Our favorite word. We need to make these things more affordable. So they institute what's called a ceiling. Okay, and in our example here, the government says you cannot charge over $1,500 a month rent. Okay, well, if you're a landlord, what's that do immediately? Other than tick you off, you're $500 less per apartment per month automatically. So your incentive to make them nice, to keep them nice, to fix things is going to drop immediately. So your first thing is going to be a quality decrease. If you think about something like you can't charge, if Five Guys can't charge over $1 for a hamburger, what are they going to do? They're going to stop offering those options. They're going to buy cheaper beef. They're going to not give you free peanuts. That kind of stuff. Okay, almost immediately, because that's what makes it nicer. And if they can't charge a premium price, they're not going to offer a premium product. All right, so you've got that. Now, to tie this into apartments, you now have, let's say you lowered the price to $1,500. Now you notice, I've changed this. You now have an increase, law of demand. Prices drop, QD is going up, increase in demand for apartments. The problem is you got 1,000 apartments, you get 1,200 potential tenants. How do you decide who gets them? Okay, if you owned 100 apartments and you had 120 people come in applying for them, which 100 people get them? You know the answer as well as I do. You would not just choose whoever. You would choose probably the wealthier, probably the more stable, the quieter, maybe older person who's more likely to be responsible. So therefore, you basically end up giving the apartment to the people that could have afforded it anyway. This happens all the time. New York City does this to some of their apartments, and it just does this all the time. So you end up giving, Jerry Seinfeld, etc., a cheaper apartment. So that's one thing. So if you look at our relationship here, if the ceiling is below the market price, which in this case it is, then these things may happen. You're going to see a drop in quality almost for sure. You also see an increase in bribery. If you got a guy who goes in and says, hey, I need this apartment, and here's $1,500, and here's $500 under the table, you're going to get the apartment. If the assumption is that's going to be every month, then yes, You probably will. And bribery runs rampant in this too. So who's more likely to be able to afford $500 extra? We're back to the same people who can, more likely get that apartment. And the third is nepotism. If you don't know what that word means, you've probably heard of it. Why is this going dark all of a sudden? Favoring of friends or relatives, and you all do this. I've had this happen to me. You got a friend that works at Wendy's, and they know you're in the drive-thru, and all of a sudden you got extra fries or something like that in there, which is the way it goes. But here, if you're talking about, your friends, your relatives, your college roommate's son, whatever, needs an apartment, even if he's not a good bet, he's probably going to get it because he's got connections. And any of you ever worked with the boss's kid, you know how that can be. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But there's not the same consequence. So that tends to happen as well. And who's more likely to be connected to wealthy landlords? Again. So what ends up happening is these ceiling laws, and it happens almost all the time, ends up basically helping the people that don't need help and hurting the people that do. But we still do it, just like all of these. And you think about all these, especially B, C, D, and E, they're all designed to help the little guy. But they, in practice, don't really help the little guy, but yet we keep doing it because, hope over experience or whatever. It's ideally it looks good and it looks like we're trying, even though the situation gets worse. So there you go. Expect an assignment with a few questions on this that I'll make do a little later because I'm going to stagger the release of these. I don't want to swamp you all at once. Okay? All right. Have a great day. Bye.